Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and this is the audio reading of the novel Cult of the Sacred Runes, written by Mad Snail. We're picking up where we left off, and we're starting at chapter 15, titled Dinner Party. Night fell quickly upon the Ye Manor. The halls and corridors were heavily decorated with big, red, festive lanterns that brightened the mood and interior. In the banquet hall, the leading figures of the family wore long-lost smiles. With the recent events, the leaders of the family had nothing but struggles and obstacles to overcome, and it was pleasant and refreshing having something to celebrate. In the spacious banquet hall, Grandpa Ye Ching was sitting at the family head seat, right at the head of the table. The old man was surrounded by an aura of power. He was around 70 years of age, and although all his hair had long since turned white, his face had a healthy red glow, which showed he was in great shape due to his cultivation and years of training. To his left was Ye Wei's big uncle, Ye Hai, second uncle, Ye Han, his dad, Ye Yi, and little uncle, Ye Yu. And to Ye Wei's right were the talents of the younger generation, little aunt, Ye Jingjing, male cousins, Ye Zong and Ye Zhuan, and the female cousins, Ye Chu and Ye Ling. Big uncle, Ye Hai, was a one-star condensing prime warrior, while his dad, Ye Yi, and uncles Ye Han and Ye Yu were all 10-star warriors. For big family dinners, like this evening's, the seating plan was very detailed and well thought out. The stronger one was, the closer they would be seated to the head of the house. Less talented individuals, like Ye Wei, were placed in the corners of the hall, which was next to his mother. Despite the clear segregation, the family members had healthy relationships between one another, unlike other big families, where the less important members could rarely join a conversation between the stronger members and the elders. Ye Wei's eyes were focused on the person sitting at the head of the table, as he was admiring Ye Ching's aura. Although he had the eyes of a strong, experienced eagle, the skin around them showed a slight weariness. It must be the recent drama, Ye Wei thought. He felt a bit uneasy and helpless, and wished he could share his grandfather's burdens. This is the first dinner party we've had in more than 3 months. We are all gathered here today to celebrate Jingjing's 7-star warrior breakthrough. Ye Ching's masculine voice echoed throughout the fully seated banquet hall. Ye Ching patted his youngest daughter's shoulder, feeling very proud. He raised his head to look at his family. I hope all the young folks can be motivated and inspired by Jingjing. Train hard and become something to bring honor to our family. Congratulations, little sis. The Ye family has gained a 7-star warrior. Let's toast to my little sister. Ye Hai stood up and said, raising his glass with a big grin on his face. You are a condensed stage warrior. I still have a long way to go. Ye Jingjing raised her glass and emptied it into her mouth simultaneously. Indeed, you're not at Big Brother's level, but you're gonna overtake me soon, right? Let your second oldest brother offer you another drink. Ye Han laughed and raised his glass. Thank you, brother. Jingjing emptied another glass without hesitation at all. Ye Jingjing was very straightforward with everything, even masculine in some ways. She was very different compared to the ladylike women in other big families. 26, unmarried, and still living in the family manor. She had a great personality, a people person, and she was usually the third in command after Grandpa and Ye Hai, making decisions and taking care of the family when those two were away. Little Aunt has always taken care of Ye Wei since he was a toddler. She once said, I will take care of the young ones in the family and help you kids establish yourselves, even if it means not getting married. Watching you grow is a great cause, and I will be satisfied and pleased. He had always thought that little aunt was kidding, but as he thought about it, his eyes got a bit wet upon seeing her still standing by her words after all these years. Little Aunt was truly a family woman. Let's dig in. The big and harmonious family put a smile on Ye Ching's aging face as he picked up his chopsticks and started the feast. There was great joy throughout the banquet hall, but everyone had a common and unspoken worry. Thus, they were not fully relaxed. The bitterness could be felt, seeing as there was a family crisis going on after all. Everyone ate and chatted, trying to temporarily put the negativity aside. When Ye Wei was half full, he excused himself and went outside for some fresh summer air, theorizing ways in which he could use his rune knowledge to help his family get out of this unfavorable position. With his gift and Lin Zian's referral, Ye Wei should be skilled enough to become a disciple of Master Yi. There were only 3 rune masters who lived in Green Moon City, and Master Yi was the best and most respected one out of the 3. If Ye Wei became his disciple, it would greatly improve the family's reputation. Ye Wei considered this possibility and decided that this would be his course of action. He clenched his fist tightly in determination, ready to turn this crisis around. Big Uncle Ye Hai also came out to the courtyard, heading straight towards Ye Wei while he was lost in deep thought. Among relationships between his uncles, Ye Wei got along the worst with his big uncle Ye Hai. Ye Hai was always harsh and strict with Ye Wei. This contributed to Ye Wei's fear of being close to and opening up to his big uncle. Noticing Ye Hai approaching, Ye Wei lowered his head, trying to avoid possible eye contact, and thought of an escape plan. "Ye Wei, where are you going?" Ye Hai shouted. He was not going to let his nephew get away. "Big uncle," Ye Wei unwillingly greeted him. "Shouldn't you be at South Star Academy right now? What on earth do you think you're doing here?" Ye Hai was slightly irritated by Ye Wei's presence. Ye Wei tried to explain himself but got cut off. "Don't tell me you skipped school. Could you put more effort into studying and break through to the 2-star level?" Ye Hai questioned earnestly with a rough tone. "Your cultivation is the worst among the new generation. All your younger siblings and cousins have overtaken you." Ye Wei wanted to declare that he had broken through to the 2-star level, but the words would just not come out of his mouth. He noticed Ye Hai's stern face and looked down at the ground again. "Yeah, I'll try my best." He wanted to surprise his uncle with actions to prove his worth and shut Ye Hai up without using words. Ye Hai was somewhat eased by Ye Wei's submissive acceptance to his scolding. "At least you're listening. I'll let you off for now. Our family is not doing too great at the moment, so your generation should train harder and contribute more to the family as soon as possible." Ye Wei didn't think Big Uncle would let him off the hook so easily, so he left the scene immediately. Having felt Ye Hai's disappointment, Ye Wei was desperate to get stronger as fast as he could. "In your minds, I have always been the worst, a bottom dweller. Well, that's gonna change, just you watch," Ye Wei swore to himself. After Ye Wei walked pretty far, he turned a corner on his way back to the banquet. Right before he was about to leave Ye Hai's sight was when he caught something out of the corner of his eye. He stood still behind the wall next to him and peered forward. 3 figures stood there in the dead of night, in the deserted courtyard where his uncle had been standing. They were the 3 leaders of the Ye family. "Ye Hai, how is the scroll business looking?" Ye Xingqing asked with a low-pitched voice. He cut to the chase, hoping to have a better picture of how the most important issue was progressing. "We lowered the retail price by 30%, but the figures are still suboptimal. There are more scrolls in the shop than there are customers." Ye Hai sounded slightly depressed. "Scrolls the Du family sell can dish out 30% of the original stance's energy, whereas our scrolls can only output up to 20%. They're not selling any better, even with the price cut." A bitter smile emerged on Ye Hai's face. Despite his best efforts, the scroll business remained irreparable. Uncle He was the macho man of the family, and after hearing how washed up Ye Hai sounded, Ye Wei now realized how bad the situation really was. "Han, how is the arms trade?" The head shifted his focus onto his second oldest son, who was responsible for their other field. The Ye family had its fingers in many different businesses, but arms and scrolls had always been the most profitable. The Du family undercut us by 40%. Only 2 pieces left our doors in the past 2 months, And one of Master Yi's men sent a message regarding the cancellation of our redistribution rights if we don't sell their goods. They're going to find another distributor. Yehan looked anxious. Both of the family's most profitable businesses were retail of others' work, and the risk of getting cut off was increasing. The big three indeed. Ruthless. They're taking this too damn far. Chapter 16. Pa, what should we do next? Ye Wei frowned and asked. The foundations of our family's establishments took a few hundred years to build. If we are to collapse now, we'll have to move out of the manor and spread out all across the city. Our enemies will take this chance and attack us. Ye Zhengqing let out a long, deep sigh and looked up into the sky and thought, this is an enormous world. Is there somewhere our Ye family can just live in peace? The land in North Hill Bay belongs to the Ye family. Our ancestors were buried there. I will never give up our ancestral land. No matter what happens, I'll defend it with my life. Ye Wei was still standing behind the wall while they were talking, eavesdropping, and the conversation got heavier and heavier. He felt insecure because the thought of his family losing its integrity was frightening. But the thought of losing the only place he could ever call home was unsettling. There's not a lot of options left. We shall agree to the duel posed by the Du family. Ye Zhengqing took a gold-plated letter of challenge from his pocket. A messenger from the Du family delivered this letter of challenge. The event shall be in 3 days, where the younger generation of our families shall fight against each other. If we win the duel, the Du family has promised that they will stop interfering with our family's businesses. But if we lose, we will have to sell our ancestral land to them. That is out of the question, Ye Wei said anxiously. The strongest youngsters we have is a 4-star warrior. But the Du family's youngsters have already become 5-star warriors. The strongest of them, Du Yuan Han, is even a 6-star warrior. We cannot have Ye Zong take this impossible task, Ye Han frowned. He knew that the Ye family had little chance at winning, and there was no way they could risk the loss of their most important, talented youngsters. I will train privately with Ye Zong until the duel. Either way, one of our youngsters has to take on this challenge. Even if we lose, we can say, at the least, that we tried our best. There is no other way out of this dilemma. The head of the family made this tough decision, as the family was completely cornered by this crisis. Ye Wei and Ye Han felt helpless and dejected. Their Ye family might very well fall, and they could do nothing to stop it. Let's put that aside for now. We also have to plan for the worst outcome. If we lose the duel, our old foes will be at the doorstep the moment they hear the news of our loss. We must send the young ones to Ning City, where they should be safe with the Yang family. Ye Zhengqing felt crushed. Having to split the family up was his worst nightmare. Father. Ye Han clenched his fist as he saw his father's face. Ye Wei was speechless. After some consideration, he broke his silence. This will be the right move if we lose the duel. I'm not worried about most of the kids, but my young nephew, Ye Wei, he's not a talented child. The other children will survive and find their own way, even if they're under a different roof. They're strong enough to work simple jobs, like being a guard, and eventually have their own small families. With Ye Wei, it won't be that easy. He has a red sentient, and I'm sure he'll be excluded regardless of our good relationship with the Yangs. He is protected by the Ye family, and we provide for him so he can live a carefree life and not worry about food and clothes. It won't be this simple if he has to live under another roof. Having heard his big uncle's confession, Ye Wei was breathless. 2 lines of tears fell from his red eyes. Ye Wei always thought that his big uncle was the worst-tempered and the meanest of his uncles. The uncle who disliked him the most. He never thought Uncle Ye Wei cared about him and his future that much. Ye Wei's heart was suddenly filled with guilt. He had always misunderstood his uncle who had always been strict with him for the noblest of intentions. I was a child who didn't care about anything outside my little bubble. But in difficult times like this, as Grandpa said, it's about time the young ones take on some responsibility. I will defend the Ye family to my final breath. I have to do my part in keeping our loved ones close together. I won't sit back and watch us get separated. I swear I won't let this happen. With the back of his hand, he wiped the tears away and firmly walked out. Slowly, Ye Wei's figure disappeared into the dark of the night. Soon after that, Ye Ching announced the duel with the Du family in front of the family at the banquet. Upon hearing the news, the majority of the family members' faces became pale with fear for the family's future. Although Ye Zong, the strongest of the younger generation in the Ye family, was fairly famous in Green Moon City, his opponent would be a 6-star warrior. No amount of fame would even put a dent in that difference of power. Our Ye family has no other choice. Grandpa looked at the disapproving faces of the family members and sighed. He looked as if he were 10 years older for a brief moment. This is outrageous! Aunt Jing violently smashed the table and stood up. She shouted, I will take on the Du family myself. For a moment, she looked like a rampaging demon who would kill without hesitation. Her pretty face was bright red, but it was unclear whether it was from rage or alcohol. Father, is there no other way? Can't we discuss this matter with Master Yi? I don't see Ye Zong winning this duel, and the land at North Hill Bay is at stake. Our ancestors' remains were buried there, for crying out loud. Ye Wei's dad, Ye Wei, stood up and sought to stop this madness. The most respected rune master in Green Moon City, Master Yi, actually had connections with the Ye family. If he were to be a peacemaker, even the Du family would have to stand down. Master Yi. Grandpa shook his head with a bitter smile on his face. Master Yi's prestigious status comes with a tight schedule and security concerns. It's not so easy to arrange a meeting with him, even for the head of one of the big 3 families. This matter is too urgent. Do you really think I could convince Master Yi to help us in just a couple days? Gramps, when is the Du family coming over? Ye Zong had held his tongue up until now. He now spoke each word loud and clear in a declaratory manner. For the ancestral land, I would give my life before giving up. I am the strongest in the younger generation, and we need a strong leader in this moment of crisis. Ye Zong cracked his knuckles as he said these words. In 3 days, Grandpa replied. He could see the recklessness in Ye Zong's posture, so he added, Little Zong, just do your best. There will always be a winner and a loser, and nobody in this hall will blame you. What you must not do is let your emotions control you. You are the one with the most potential in our family. I can picture you taking over from me one day and becoming the master of this family. Ye Ching was clearly worried about Ye Zong's hot-headedness. Of course. Gramps, Dad, uncles, and aunts. I'm gonna head back now. Ye Zong nodded and turned around, heading out of the hall. Cousin! Ye Wei watched his cousin walking away, visibly stressed with clenched hands. The family's future was in his cousin's hands. He couldn't imagine how much pressure Ye Zong was under right now. How much weight there was on his poor cousin's shoulders. Ye Zong had always been a supportive figure to Ye Wei since he was a young boy, especially after the entry exam to South Star Academy. Upon hearing the bad news about his red sentient, his big cousin was there to comfort and motivate him patiently and caringly. Big cousin is likely to risk his life for the family, but what about me? Can't I do anything but sit in the corner quietly and watch this unfold? No, I have to do something. I will not allow anyone to plot against my family, nor will I let anyone hurt my cousin. Ye Wei remembered how he perfected Triple Title Palm and helped Ziyan acquire cosmic energy, thus allowing her to break through to become a warrior. He planned to help Ye Zong with his training and perfect his stances, improving his cultivation and the chance of victory. I'll have to give this a go. Ye Wei raised his head slowly and clenched his fists. After the feast, Ye Wei and his parents left the banquet hall and walked back to their house together. "Little Wei, you should be tired from the trip home, right? Get some rest, son." Ye Yi patted his son's head, sounding a bit down, which was probably because of the announcement at the dinner party. "Of course. Ma, Pa, you two should get some rest soon too." Ye Wei nodded agreeingly and made his way back to his room while his parents returned to theirs. The night was getting darker and darker. Dim, flickering tea lights in the lanterns made the quiet walkways and corridors in the manor look slightly frightening. A midnight breeze gently blew past the tea lights, and leaves on the trees, the sizzling leaves, seemed a bit tired in the darkness. Silence fell as the wind slowly died down, and the starlight was fading, leaving the moon on her own. Ye Wei was appreciating the peaceful and gorgeous night sky while walking in the dark paths toward Ye Zong's residence with the moonlight's guidance. Ye Zong was relatively independent. He was no longer living with his parents, but in a separate quarter by himself. As expected, he was training very hard in the courtyard. How long has he been doing this? Ye Wei peeped through the gate into the courtyard, and he saw that his cousin was surrounded by heavy white mist. It was a cloud of evaporated sweat. Ye Zong was performing the high spirit level stance White Tiger's Assault repeatedly, and the drain of will force and ki made him have a pale complexion and caused him to gasp heavily. A high spirit level stance was a warrior's limit. The White Tiger's Assault was the most powerful among the 16 high spirit level stances that the Ye family had, and it was also what Ye Zong was best at. There were significant strength differences between the stances: simple, advanced, peak, and forbidden. From weakest to strongest were the 4 sublevels. Forbidden stances existed and were extremely powerful, but generally avoided, as performing them could be harmful to a warrior's mind and body, akin to a double-edged blade. The White Tiger's Assault belonged to the peak level. It was easily one of the strongest stances a warrior could master at Ye Zong's level. The dim moonlight was the only reason anything was visible, and in the dark, Ye Zong drew an interwinding web of runes around his steaming body. The web of runes quickly shrunk, with him as the center, and formed a large cat, a tiger as white as the first snow. Although Ye Wei was standing quite a distance from the outside of the courtyard, his skin could feel the force emitting from the cat from more than 20 feet away. A wave of pressure tightened Ye Wei's chest. It was getting harder and harder to breathe, and a chill went down his spine. He was suddenly enveloped by inexplicable fear. Ye Wei remained calm as he could while staring at the white tiger levitating over his cousin's head. The mountain emerged in Ye Wei's consciousness, and a golden light shone through the surface of his red sentient that was slightly visible deep in his dark irises. 2 nodes out of the 136 runes can be improved. If my big cousin's ki could flow through them quicker, and in sync with the other nodes, the White Tiger's Assault can become significantly stronger. Ye Wei's eyes brightened up like shining stars in the bright night sky. 2 flaws. I'll figure out how to polish the stance, and Cousin Zong's best stance will become much better once it's been perfected. Chapter 17. Before actually spotting the errors in his cousin's stance, Ye Wei wasn't confident about repeating what he did when he was with Lin Ziyan before. But now, his body and mind were ready to refine and perfect the White Tiger's Assault. After all, helping his cousin would be the only way for him to contribute to the Ye family's last stand. Excited and euphoric, Ye Wei placed his hand on the gate as he leaned forward to have a closer look at his cousin's training. The gate moved an inch as he put his weight onto it, and it squeaked. The squeak, made by the opening gate, was just loud enough to surprise Ye Wei, causing him to panic and immediately pull his hand off the gate. "Show yourself now!" Ye Zong was focused and tensed, while his eyes were ice cold. He bent his knees slightly and tensed up his calves. Then he launched himself, and within the blink of an eye, he was already at the gate, charging in a way akin to a tiger ambushing one from above. The heightened hearing of a 4-star warrior could easily pick up the squeak. It was not surprising that Ye Zong could hear him. Ye Zong's hand was glowing bright red as he pulled it toward his chest like a loaded cannon ready to be fired. If he released his strike, the door would, without a doubt, turn into dust, and Ye Wei, who was right behind it, would meet the same fate. "Cousin Zong, it's me!" he shouted while realizing that this could be the last moment of his life, which caused Ye Wei to be covered in cold sweat in a rush of terror. "Ye Wei, is that you?" Ye Zong recognized the familiar voice coming from behind the gate. The owner of it should be friendly. This idea surfaced in his consciousness just before the point of no return, so he stopped his attack before it hit him. However, the recoil from the attack took a toll on his body, causing his face to become a little pale. Squeak. He opened the gate while not being able to decide if he should laugh or cry as he looked at Ye Wei, who looked like an injured critter resting on the ground. "Ye Wei, it is way past your bedtime. Why are you out here wandering around? Do you know that you could have been seriously injured a moment ago?" Ye Zong rubbed his little cousin's scalp and told him off with a fake, serious face. "The weather is horrible today. The heat is fine, but the humidity kept me up, so I decided to take a walk and get some fresh air. My feet led me here somehow. I don't even really know how I got here." Ye Wei came up with a random excuse while scratching the back of his head and smiling. "You little rascal, come on in." Ye Zong reluctantly shook his head with an amused look in his eyes as he closed the gate behind him while dragging Ye Wei into his courtyard. "Du Han Yu is a 6-star warrior. Cousin, are you nervous about the fight tomorrow?" Ye Wei innocently posed the obvious question to his now extremely pale and tired relative. "What do you know about it?" he replied and knocked his little cousin on the forehead with his knuckles. Then he looked at the beautiful silver moon in the night sky. The moon's light reflected off his face and revealed his anxiousness. Nervous? As a 4-star warrior, having to physically confront a well-known genius, the young 6-star warrior, Du Yuehan of Green Moon City? With their family's ancestral land at stake, who wouldn't be nervous? Just thinking about the consequences of failing was enough to make it difficult for one to breathe. "Cousin, you were performing the White Tiger's assault, right? That's an impressive high spirit level stance. I wish I was as strong as you. I can't even make stances. Could you maybe show it to me again? I want to see it up close." Ye Wei looked at Ye Zong with a fire in his eyes while scratching his head because he was shy from his overenthusiasm and questions. But still, worried he might have gotten it wrong, Ye Wei wanted to verify the flaws he spotted a moment ago. If you work hard enough, you can and will be able to do stances. Ye Zong knew that talent was a sensitive topic for the mediocre Ye Wei, so he patted him on the shoulders as he motivated him with words. With his red sentient, nobody really knows how long he might need to become a 7-star student. 10, 20, 30 years? You should take a few steps back. Ye Zong could not refuse the request from his little cousin. "Roger that." Ye Wei nodded his head enthusiastically as he stepped back approximately around 10 meters. He opened his eyes wide this time and watched his cousin, waiting for the White Tiger to strike. Zap! Ye Wei saw the process before, but when comparing it to Ziyan, Ye Zong did every step with much more flair. The will force on his finger was much more dense, and the key on the will force was thicker. He drew rune after rune like it was second nature. In a matter of seconds, Ye Zong was surrounded by the 136 freshly drawn runes, shrouded by the blurry shining runes which caused him to look mysterious and almost angelic. Here it was, White Tiger's assault. Ye Zong uttered a cry, causing the 136 spots of light to wrap around his body quickly as they came closer to one another. Roar! The White Tiger roared ferociously, as if it was a beast that had descended from the heavens themselves. The pressure wave it produced spread, and quickly, like a mini tsunami, traveling across the courtyard, the fallen leaves were picked up by the turbulence produced by the stance and were blown away until stopped by the walls of the courtyard. The pressure even knocked Ye Wei off balance despite being 10 meters away. The overpowering pressure wave shook his body, and he staggered for a while before he finally regained his balance after taking 6 steps back. Now I can see it clearly. There was a golden flash in Ye Wei's eyes for a single moment when he was analyzing the runes that formed the stance, his dark eyes focusing onto the 2 wrong nodes within the stance. This one is hidden much better than the other stance. How should I perfect this and let Cousin Zong know? Ye Wei frowned as he tried to figure out how to tell his cousin. If I just tell him there are 2 mistakes in the White Tiger's assault stance, there's no way he'll believe it. He's just going to think I'm crazy. He tried to figure out how to send the message in a subtle manner so as to not reveal his abilities. That was astounding. Ye Wei took a deep breath and went on with his play. He attempted to look jealous and astonished as he approached his cousin. Cousin, is the order and position of those runes set? Would the stance still work if you, for example, swap this one and that one around? Hearing Ye Wei's outlandish question, Ye Zong went silent and then laughed. Of course they are fixed, little cousin. The masters who invented the art of stances thought thoroughly regarding the position and sequential order of the runes of each stance. They are optimized to their fullest in order to promote synergy between the runes. If you swap them around, either it wouldn't work or it would be less powerful than before, which is undesirable. Aha! I've heard that warriors can manipulate mystic runes, but you know how far away I am from that level, right, cousin? But I want to see it, and I had that idea, so I can grasp the feel of it? Ye Wei was trying to take full advantage of his puppy dog eyes, using them to manipulate his caring cousin. Don't you want to show me how it's done, cousin? It was obviously working. Ye Zong's sympathy told him his talentless little cousin was a weakling stuck in the bottom of the well and wanted a peek at the world above. Naturally, he accepted the request with a friendly smile. Manipulating runes is not hard, little Wei. No matter what hardship life has for you, never give up. Especially in things you think you're not as talented as others in. For example, Supreme Ch15 was not at all talented when he was a teenager. Okay, watch. Manipulating runes is simple. Ye Zong looked at his little cousin with a thoughtful glance. The will force on his fingertips formed a magnetic-like attraction toward the runes, which allowed him to effortlessly swap the 2 runes around and turn them upside down, just as Ye Wei had suggested. The new pattern flowed, and upon completion, it formed a slightly different stance. The key within the stance was now noticeably much more fluid, since the formation of the runes was more efficient. In seconds, the courtyard was filled with a silver light, and the white tiger figure was shining brighter and clearer than ever before. 2 roars were heard, each of them loud as thunder, shaking tiles on the roofs near Ye Zong's quarters. Roar! The tiger's eyes were wide open while roaring. It was a glorious scene to behold, as it seemed akin to the coronation of the king of beasts. This time around, however, Ye Zong only used less than half the ki he normally used for White Tiger's assault, but it was more powerful. What's going on? Ye Zong was completely baffled. When he raised his head in shock, he doubtfully looked at the figure of the White Tiger above him. The power of the stance had undoubtedly improved by approximately 1/3. White Tiger's assault is the strongest stance among the 16 high-level spirit stances that the Ye seniors taught to the younger generation. How is it possible that one minor change improved a stance with such a long history so enormously? And guys, that's going to finish it off for tonight. We got 3 chapters. Honestly, that is cool because these are long chapters. So I'm happy to get back into it. And I hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope you look forward to the next one. I'll see you there. Until then, later.